Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're completely reframing how we look at bringing a new team member into an industrial environment. We often think of the new hire orientation as just this mountain of tedious paperwork, a few hours spent signing forms in a fluorescent-lit HR office. But looking at it that way is actually a massive operational risk. The orientation process isn't just administrative red tape, it's the critical, chronological gateway that transforms a civilian into a protected, compliant, and fully equipped industrial employee. It's essentially a protective shield for both the new hire and the company.
Okay, let's dive right into this. First, we'll look at the onboarding checklist. Next, Texas reporting compliance. Then, we'll map out the benefits eligibility timelines. And finally, critical safety sign-offs.
Let's start with Section 1, the onboarding checklist, structuring the gateway.
Bringing a new hire into a complex manufacturing facility, it's a recipe for cognitive overload if we just throw a giant stack of papers and a safety manual at them all at once. A strict, sequential checklist is our absolute best defense against this, making sure zero compliance steps slip through the cracks. It's a carefully orchestrated sequence. Step 1 tackles the foundational administrative tasks. This is where the employee reviews the employee handbook and completes those standard admin sign-offs. It establishes the basic ground rules. Step 2 moves into the processing phase, making sure the new hire is legally registered with the state and enrolled in the benefits system. And then, Step 3 strictly concludes with critical safety and hazard communication, or HAZCOM training. You literally cannot jump to Step 3 without clearing the first two, and you absolutely cannot assign active floor duties until Step 3 is 100% complete.
Orientation really requires a strict two-pronged approach. On one side, you have the administrative sign-offs. This is your bureaucratic, operational foundation, right? The employee handbook, state reporting, and benefits. It protects the company's legal and financial standing. But on the other side, you have the safety sign-offs, HAZCOM, personal protective equipment, or PPE, and OSHA compliance. This prong is quite literally life-saving. It protects the physical well-being of the employee in environments that are filled with heavy machinery and industrial chemicals. Both prongs are mandatory, for sure, but they serve entirely different, absolutely vital purposes.
Moving on to Section 2, Texas reporting compliance, the ticking clock.
When you're running multi-plant operations, like Frankston Packaging does across different facilities, state reporting isn't just some casual internal HR metric, it carries absolute legal stakes. The state needs to know exactly who is entering the workforce, and they give you a very, very narrow window to tell them. 20, that is your magic number. From the exact moment that new hire officially starts, a specific ticking clock begins. The state of Texas requires that new hire reporting must be completed within a strict maximum of 20 days. Not a month, not the end of the quarter, 20 days.
And the logistics of this? Just as strict as the timeline. Texas new hire reporting has to be submitted via specific permitted methods, namely the state's web portal or by fax. I really want to emphasize here that this isn't just an internal company suggestion or a best practice guideline. It's a mandatory state compliance law. Missing this 20-day window can result in totally unnecessary penalties and operational friction that a well-structured onboarding checklist is specifically designed to help you avoid.
Now, for Section 3, benefits, eligibility, timelines, mapping the first 90 days.
So this is the part of orientation that new hires are understandably the most focused on. Tracking eligibility dates is crucial, not just for the HR department's processing schedule, but for the actual welfare and peace of mind of the employee. We really need to map out what their first 3 months will look like regarding their coverage. The first major milestone in an employee's benefits journey arrives at exactly 30 days. This is the specific marker where life insurance eligibility officially kicks in. It's that first layer of long-term security provided to the new hire after they've kind of settled into their first month on the job.
Then, the second major milestone, and let's be real, typically the most highly anticipated one, arrives at the 90-day mark. At exactly 90 days of employment, medical insurance eligibility is reached. This is an absolutely critical date for HR to track accurately because missing this enrollment window can severely impact the employee's healthcare access and their family's overall security.
And this brilliantly illustrates everything we just talked about. Bringing all these precise temporal data points together into one chronological milestone path just gives us so much clarity. For those first 90 days, day 1 is all about those initial handbook and safety sign-offs. By day 20, boom, the absolute deadline for Texas new hiring reporting is hit. At day 30, life insurance eligibility activates. And finally, at day 90, medical insurance eligibility unlocks. Having this clear timeline ensures both the HR coordinator and the employee are perfectly aligned on expectations.
So, we've successfully navigated the bureaucratic labyrinth.
The state knows they work here, their benefits timeline is mapped out, and the handbook is signed. But once the paperwork is filed and those benefits are set, what actually comes next before they hit the floor? We're shifting our momentum right now. We are walking out of the quiet, air-conditioned HR office and stepping directly out onto the loud, dynamic, and potentially hazardous plant floor.
Which brings us to Section 4, Critical Safety Sign-Offs, Protecting the Employee. Passing this final safety gate is absolutely mandatory before the employee assumes any active duties whatsoever. It is the ultimate protective barrier. And this isn't just about dodging OSHA fines. It's about making sure everyone goes home safely at the end of their shift. The HAZCOM, or Hazard Communications Sign-Off, has very specific requirements. First, as we noted, the orientation itself is mandatory before any active duties. Next, the employee must know exactly where the Safety Data Sheet, or SDS logs, are located at their specific job site. They also have to understand GHS secondary container labeling, which is incredibly crucial in a plant using Flexo inks, solvents, and washes. And finally, they must acknowledge the required personal protective equipment like mandatory OSHA safety glasses. Skipping any of these just opens the door to severe physical injury.
Actually, to really grasp that container labeling rule, we need to quickly define GHS. The globally harmonized system is an international safety framework. It requires standardized chemical hazard labels, specific visual pictograms, and structured 16-section safety data sheets. When a training coordinator teaches a new hire about GHS, they're ensuring that if that employee picks up a secondary squeeze bottle of press wash, they know exactly what chemical is inside, what the hazards are, and what PPE is required to touch it, literally just by looking at the label.
So the crucial point is, let this really sink in. Safety orientation training must be fully completed before a new hire assumes active duties. No exceptions. A supervisor cannot pull a new hire onto a Bob's die cutter or a Flexo line just because they're short-staffed if this sign-off isn't securely in their file. No one steps onto the production floor to work without the specific training finished.
Which leaves us with a critical question to reflect on. Take a hard look at your own facility's practices. Are your onboarding checklists treated as just bureaucratic paperwork to be rushed through, or do you treat them as what they truly are, the ultimate gateway to a safe, legally compliant, and fully integrated workforce? How you handle day one sets the standard for every single day that follows. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I challenge you to review your own orientation gateway today.